Is it really an Edgar Wright film if there is not music scattered throughout the entire thing? Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like, share, subscribe to that channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Also, if you've already seen Last Night in Soho, leave your thoughts and comments on what you thought about the film below. I know this is my review, but I'm curious to hear what everybody else has to say about this. Keep it non-spoilery though for the first couple of weeks, just so nobody else is ruined on what they're going to be seeing. I was excited about this one. I'm an Edgar Wright fan. Baby Driver, I love. Scott Pilgrim, I watch probably every 6 months. I love that film, and then obviously the Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, World's End trilogy is quite fun. And there's been varying degrees of what he's sort of become. Those British, those UK obvious Hot Fuzz, Sean Simon Pegg type of comedies, those were one thing. Scott Pilgrim's his own thing, Baby Driver's his own thing. But we're starting to see that he's playing with different genres. And so with Last Night in Soho, this is a thing that's sort of different. It's a new genre that he's playing with, this horror, mystery, thriller type of genre. But it's still got a lot of Edgar Wright elements to it. Namely, I was being in jest, the musical numbers. It's very reminiscent to Bad Times at El Royale, where we're using sort of musical cues and musical notes to sort of set the scene, set the time, set the sort of the ambiance, if you will, but also songs to sort of set the cues as to stories. Those songs are specifically chosen to continue on a story thread, a story beat throughout this. Every song chosen in this is purposely put there, and Edgar knows what he's doing. I'm always curious with these type of films if the writer writes the songs around the script, or the script is written around the songs, or sort of as a merging of the two. But however it works, that all coalesce pretty well. There's some pretty dope shooting sequences and styles in this. The way this is captured is pretty well. I love. There are moments throughout some of the time jumping elements of this where Thomasin, who plays Ellie, and Anya, who plays Sandy, they have this kind of sort of, she's using this ability that she has to sort of put herself in this back in time and sort of recreate some of the moments that Sandy went through. And so the shots are showing her going through these moments, but also making sure that we see that Ellie, it is still Ellie, we're still being aware, and she's kind of living in this world of this big grand thing that everybody sort of wants to do. The story, if people don't know, without getting too spoilery, I'm going to be as vague as possible as I can with this. So this story centers around Thomasin McKenzie, who plays Ellie, who's a fashion designer, or want to be fashion designer, who gets accepted to the school in the heart of London. And she, after being in a super small town for most of her life, we won't get too much about her familial history, but she gets to this world and she's excited. She wants to be, those like young actors or actresses or whatnot, to move to this big city to kind of live their dream. She's doing that, and she stumbles upon, because we find out that she sort of has this ability to see things that have existed in the past. And it's not really clear whether she can see dead people or if she can see jump through time. What her ability is never explained, and I don't need it to be. I'm perfectly fine with it not being explained, but she has the ability to sort of see and interact with past spirits. Um, Sort of like a medium to an extent. And in that, she gravitates towards a young lady named Sandy, who in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, was a actress who moved to London to sort of do this sort of the same thing, a parallel, if you will, to what Ellie's doing. And so she stumbles upon this, and the world that Sandy gets engulfed in is not all that it is cracked up to be, and sort of calamity, murder, mischief, mayhem sort of ensues, and Ellie sort of has to use her power and ability to kind of figure her way out and navigate through that. Excellently told story. I think it has ups and downs. I think the first act of this, when you're just establishing characters, is a little bit of a slow mover. But the middle part of this, where I think a lot of the trailers cut in and a lot of the trailers show you, it is very engaging. It's intense. That's when it's at its height as thriller. And then the last act, unfortunately, sort of meanders a little bit and kind of goes in and out of being both some very intensely scary shots and some moments where they just don't add up to the sum of all the parts that have sort of been put on the board. Thomasin McKenzie is the sole purpose of this. I know Anya is sort of also lead billing with the posters, but this is Thomasin's story, and she kills it. She does a really good job. Anya obviously being the seductress and young ingenue and then broken ingenue, it all works. It all comes together pretty well, and it's very believable. I think Edgar Wright uses this film to do a lot of homages to past thrillers, time films. Obviously, his own catalog of loving music. It all kind of comes together, but feels a little hollow because I think the middle act, the sweet spot, and everything else around it doesn't always hit on everything that it's supposed to be. For me, this movie does the best when it's colorful, violent, dark, and musical, and or dance numbers. When all of those things are happening, this is when it's at its highest. When those things are not taking place, it sort of comes to a grinding halt. I get all the metaphors and unfortunate sick things that women still to this day, but women of that era who want to become something or want to make a name for themselves were at the mercy of the men that were around them. This is sort of a parallel to show what they had to go through and some of the underbellies of that, and you kind of create a story around that, and for the most part it works. I'm going to have to get into a little bit of spoilers. It's vague. I'm going to be as vague as I possibly can, but if you don't want to have any type of knowledge of what happens in Last Night in Soho, now would be the time to go ahead and block out. Gone. Perfect. Still going to be spoiled. Still going to be as vague as I possibly can, so don't worry, I'm not going to ruin the film, but if some people want to go in completely blind, I'm trying to give them a way out. For me, the biggest issue I have with this film, there are two major twists that happen in this movie. Whether or not you see them coming will depend probably on how you rate this film and where you are on the back end. I think this movie is doing as a solid good, and it could have gone up a level had I not seen the major one of the major twists from a mile away. And as many red herrings as they try to throw at you, I was unfortunately ahead of this movie, and I think that's where when you are making as tense and as tight of a thriller as you're trying to make with this, for me to then get ahead of it kind of messed it up for me. And I don't know if everybody's going to have that same feeling. I don't know if it's because I'm a writer or if I'm sort of in this, that I kind of could see what was going on. The other twist was not as obvious to me, but also did not have that much of a weight on what was going on as opposed to the big one. Now they still salt and pepper in some other nuances to the major twist, but it doesn't really change that no matter what you throw at me, I saw that one coming. And so it kind of lessens the blow of the film. And so there's so much time meandering that I think either A, do a little bit better job of getting me off that track, or get to that point quicker. That's where I get to. I think the middle act of this film, when you go from her original moment, when you go from Ellie's original moment time jumping to the last time that she does, that's when this movie's its sweet spot. That's at its highest. And then there's a lot of time on the not going back to that jump and a lot in front of that. The back half, you start interspersing whether or not she's going crazy, and you put some of those dreams, those sequences, that time jump stuff into her reality. It's just not as clean. It doesn't weigh as much as the frenetic pace that the middle piece has, because it doesn't feel the same. It feels a bit uneven and a bit of a wobbly film. And I think had I not seen that ending, I could have forgiven the third act of this film a little bit more, had I not been so much ahead of it. All in all, I still think this is a really well done film. It's not one of my favorite of Edgar's, but you can see the love and craft that he has for trying to make this type of a genre film. I think the two female leads do a great job. I think it's very stylish. At the end of the day, I don't think it lives up to what the trailers intended for it to. And I also don't think that when you're putting this against other films that are sort of in that same genre, it just doesn't kind of rank up even against his own catalog. Previously, I used to rank films by three phrases. I used to say, "Play it again, Sam," "Once is enough," or "Give me a time stone so I never have to think about this again." That led to some bit of a confusion because "Once is enough" sometimes would be films that I would still enjoy, and then or sometimes it'll be something that I didn't like. I am now rephrasing things because once is enough is sort of at C, and I don't want to get people confused too much. So I still have played against him. That's considered to be an A. We're now going to be adding. Hey, I didn't mind that. That's sort of a B. C is once again once is enough, and then the D's and F's are give me a time zone, so I never have to think about this film again. I bring all that up because this is going to be the first film that I put into that. Hey, I didn't mind that. Like it's not an A, but it is in that middle class where if people want to see this film, I'd say hey, you can go ahead and check it out, but I'm not going to actively recommend this one. I would say that there are some great performances. There are some great cinematography styles. There's some great use of music if you're into that. I feel like every Edgar Wright film from this point on is going to have characters that have headphones in that have to just pump in music. Find a way to get music in there. I didn't realize that Edgar has a 1-to-1 with Beats by Dre headphones, but here we are. But this is going to be on that. Hey, I didn't mind that. It's a solid film, a good night out, and I feel like at the very least, seeing the style and hearing Anya Taylor-Joy sing Downtown is worth the price of admission itself. That's how I felt about it. What did you guys think of Last Night in Soho? We'll leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter, or you can hit us up on email at hollywoodalreadydidit@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. Like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.